I come home from a long day at work. I feel like shit and I got a cold. So I'm popping like 20 Mucinex tablets and I lie on my bed and I just turn on YouTube and look at some of my favorite videos like Little Kid Says N-Word, Pig Eats Spaghetti, Alligator Eat Pizza, Monkey Slaps Lion. It's a good combination, it's a good gay old time. While going to the bathroom, YouTube randomly autoplays a Cat Icarus video I had no idea existed, and it's on like some Georgia the Jungle video game. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. So I'm sitting here watching this video, and I'm like, this is fine. But then he says something interesting about how the game is based off the Georgia the Jungle show, and how the show couldn't keep the same voice actor between the first and second season. And I'm like, hey, that's weird. I don't remember there being a Georgia the Jungle season 2. So I do a little bit of research, and oh my god, it does have a season 2. So I'm like assuming like maybe it's like around when the show is coming out. You're meaning to tell me that Georgia the Jungle, which came out in 2007, got a season 2 almost a fucking decade later? I found this to be very interesting, so I looked it up even more and found that a lot of the 26 episodes, yes, 26 episodes, were available for viewing on YouTube on the what I'm assuming to be the official YouTube account for Georgia the Jungle. So I watched a bit of it, and season 2 is worth looking into for some weird things it does.
From Chicago to Chicago.
More and more and more!
Dad? Ow! Dad? Ow! Dad? Ow! Dad! Ow! Oh, man! That's the magic sauce.
George wonder why he save it over and over when all George get in return is big boo-boos. Big boo-boos! Good question.
Ugh, George, evil!
No, George free.
Okay, so let's get into some of them. 1. The characters are redesigned. Well, not all of them, mostly just George, who's been freaking hitting the gym ever since 2007, and in each and every one of those years, skipping leg day. Mostly his character is the same, but visually he is very different, buffing him up to make him more reminiscent of the 60s Georgia the Jungle. And Magnolia, if that's even your real name, changed a lot as well. Not really as much in terms of design, but her teeth are indeed different. Her character is mostly different because in the 2007 version, she was like this weird jungle country lady girl.
Oh, thank you so much for decorating my hut and the presents. Oh, and your place looks great.
First lesson, never say please. Got it. Thank you. Second lesson, never say thank you.
Okay.
And in this, she's kind of like what her character probably should have been, a savage cave person. Also, in this season, her name is different. In the first season, she was Magnolia. In this season, she's Ursula, which is weird because in the first season, this girl was named Ursula, and now in this season, she's called Magnolia. And this was very confusing. A very confusing change, a change that I've yet to find an answer to. That's not all that changed. All the voices are different as well for the characters. It's almost been like a decade, and it's like some highly memorable role worth going out of your way to come reprise, so that's not really surprising. This video isn't really me reviewing the show, it's really just me pointing out the points that interest me and the apparent changes that happen between the seasons, revival, or reboot, or whatever the fuck you want to classify this show as. Maybe I just have the old voices ingrained in my memory, but some choices I feel are not so great, like giving recurring character and best friend of George Ape a pretty British accent. I kinda like the old voice better. It sounded like a Brian Griffin knockoff, but it was definitely better.
I brought coffee and banana donuts.
Me no care about donuts, Ape. George want answers now.
This isn't good cop, bad cop, George. At least not yet. Remember?
George, long day tomorrow. Turn out the light.
Mantler only turns out evil doers' lights.
Yeah, but after that, he goes to sleep, right?
Mantler never sleeps.
Anyways, other changes include changing Ursula, or Magnolia's in this fucking show's case, I hate this, dad from a neutral doctor or scientist to this evil loving supervillain named Dr. Chicago. Supposedly he is based off a villain character from the original Georgia the Jungle series, and his name is taken from Dr. Chicago. And he wants to destroy the forest because... you know, his motivations aren't really clearly stated in the show, to be honest. He's also accompanied by his sidekick, a literal living and breathing tooth that calls him father. I'm gonna let the narrator explain this one for me.
You're probably thinking,
What is that?
that, my friends, is Cuspid, Dr. Chicago's toothy science assistant. The doctor created Cuspid to help out with his evil plans, but sometimes things don't work out how you imagine.
I'm sure many of you loyal George of the Jungle fans can point out all the differences, so have at it here, I implore that. But my main thing that weirded me out was some of the content within this season. I know I made jokes on Twitter and stuff about how the show possibly has a vor fetish, but I don't know, the amount of times characters get eaten alive in this show is kind of astounding. It makes you question it. Probably the most fucked up and weird episode of the show to me is this episode called Escalabanana. At least that's what it's called on the YouTube page. Where Magnolia is having some trouble thinking, so she finds these small, walking and talking society of bugs and proceeds to commit genocide on these creatures because apparently they taste really good and their effects at their digestion gives you more intelligence. It'd be one thing if these bugs were just these creatures without the ability to communicate and then you are eating them. But it's kind of fucked up that you know that they can express their emotions and fears verbally in a language you can understand, and yet you still eat them like they're fucking potato chips. It's even more messed up because they weren't really being little shits to Magnolia either. I mean, sure, their queen may have danced on your tongue when you weren't fully down, but that's their culture and that's their way of showing gratitude. It doesn't mean fucking eat them. Also, this happens. Like, the thumbnail is clickbait. Yes, I'm not gonna deny this, but this is an actual thing that happens in the show. I show people this image, and each and every time they think like, oh, this is just some guy's like DeviantArt fetish. He just fucking photoshopped this. No, this is real. This is real. Season 2 of George of the Jungle is interesting. It's like someone wanted to make like a new George of the Jungle show, but the producer's like, that'd be cool. That'd be pretty epic. But that kind of be expensive, so how about we make some changes and, you know, just reuse a lot of the assets. That's fine. If you have any new information on Season 2 of George of the Jungle, I implore you to leave that information in the comments here, or send me a message. We must know the truth of George of the Jungle Season 2.